All right, let's take a look at this insane blitz pressure from the Georgia Bulldogs against Texas. So, this is how the picture looks pre-snap, right? And when I say pre-snap, I mean right before, like literally 3 seconds before the snap. But a lot can change in 3 seconds, especially in the game of football. So, in this look, we already know coming out the huddle. Ready? Break. We're going to the line of scrimmage. We know what protection that we're in. I've already seen the play. Texas is in a 5-man protection, 50, which means the running back is gone. He's out of there. And the tight end is no longer in the protection as well. So, what it just seems like, they come out the huddle, a lot of the protection calls are embedded in the play call. And usually we'll take, if it's a 5-man protection, we're still going to take the slide to either away from the running back or to where the most dangerous is. As you guys can see, there's a lot of bodies over there. So most likely, what the center called here was a, either a Roger call, a rock call, or whatever. But the center's telling everybody except the tackle to go on a 4-man slide. So here, the center is most likely going to make a 4-man call to the right because he wants to go ahead and block the bodies, right? We want to take care of these bodies. And then what the tackle would have to do, and this is high level, right? What the tackle would have to do is set and keep eyes on Mike Backer. I'm sorry, in this case, this is the Will, since he's on the hash to the boundary. And set and do like a dual read, which means he has to set this guy. But if this guy creeps up and comes, he has to get depth and then close off and squeeze because it's 5-man protection. Okay, we go deeper in that in my course. Check out the olineroom.com and you'll see why we make these kind of calls in this situation. But the most interesting part is that that's if this defense stayed in this look. As you can see, Georgia is up to something. So what do? They shift the front. Georgia shifts the front right before the snap. This demolishes the first protection call that they made. If he wants to stick to that same protection call that he made for the initial look, that would be the wrong call to make. As a coach, I'd be like, why the hell did you make that call if they started in this look? So therefore, this is one of the smartest things that you could do as a defensive coach, especially in a high pressure situation. If you can cover the guys on the back end. And this is why every single third down look needs a hot route. Because, like I told you, he's already made the call. The center's already made the call. And the call is wrong. And you'll see right now. Two come totally free down the B gaps, right? Offensive line, cardinal rule, protect the inside first and then out. Two B gap players coming in straight, beelining for the quarterback is not a good look. That's the wrong call. But to his credit, it's a call that was fit for this rather than this. Right? So therefore, what they have to do is make sure that they have a hot route attached here. This is the only solution that I can come up with. I know you could say, yeah, Tony, you can full slide that. Of course. Of course you can full slide. And I think this is what the center tries to do. I think he tries to call it, but then sometimes literally shit's just gonna hit the fan. This is a complete depiction of shit hitting the fan, right? So what do? This running back here, dog. This running back here. he has to look. Like he has to be on a hot route and he has to look now. Right? That's what I would suggest. Like you're not in protection. You see six guys coming up on the line of scrimmage. You gotta go and then look now. Especially if this player doesn't peel with you. If you have a design blitz like this, usually if the running back leaves on a route straight from the snap, you have a peel player, right? But since he's not a peel player, technically they may be one man short. I know there's one, two, three wide receivers over here, and I know for sure there's only three DBs over here because you got one high safety. Everybody else, and then the other corner's probably over here somewhere. Everybody else is blitzing. I guess maybe there's two guys over here. I don't know. So he's out on the route. He's coming. He should peel, but he's coming anyway. You gotta have like a looky route or something like that to where he comes up and then he just shows his hand, say quarterback, dump it to me. There's no one here. You got it somehow, some way. Now I know this is high level, and I know this is like rare case scenario, but if we were to come up with solutions to this, this is what you would do. Now let's go back to the offensive line. We said we're coming up with solutions to this, and I'm gonna try to come up with one right now. And you guys have probably guessed it. If he had time to make this call, the best call that you can make is a full slide call, where all the dudes are just gonna go here, 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 and here. It could be to the left, it could be to the right. Since the running back is leaving this way, and then the quarterback's read is over to the side, we would call a full slide to the right anyway. We would slide weak anyway and take care of these guys and be responsible for these gaps. That's one option that you can have. If you were to analyze this, you will watch a lot of film, you knew this was coming, and this is the automatic call we're going to go to. If a team was watching this, if I was watching this getting ready for the next week, that's what I would tell my guys. I'd be like, if they all pull up to the line of scrimmage right before the snap count, full slide weak, full slide weak, and then it's got to be alerted by somebody. Somebody's got to alert the tackles because the tackles are locked in on their guy. But I would tell them, hey, pre-snap, assess the field, see what's going on. This is how you can also assess the field. Okay? Before the snap at all, let's look at the safeties. We got one high. That's already a red alert. Red alert. One high usually means man in some way. What's the down and the distance? In this situation, I know that they're in the red zone, but I assume this is 3rd and 5, 36. I assume with this kind of pressure. Or a late game, and they need to get a stop. So I already know that this safety's down. Usually when the safety's already down pre-snap, he probably has to cover somebody and be manned on that person, and he doesn't want to give up too much space before the snap. So he has to walk down a little bit in order to take away some space so he can get on this guy and cover him a little bit quicker. So with assessing that, we know something's up. If they're in man, the free safety's down, that means he has to back a defender that's blitzing. So therefore, what do? Alert, alert, alert. Hey, alert, something's coming. Something's coming. So everybody communicates with each other. And you guys have a general understanding that, okay, this is going to be a certain situation that we have to be very dialed in to the possibilities here. That also should alert your quarterback and let them know to slow down. Sometimes you can't call it. Sometimes the defense just does a masterful job that you won't be able to call anything like that. Like, this is where things are just harder to execute because of it's a chess match. Georgia's playing a wonderful chess game this play, right? So the other option that I would do, so this is what he probably called. He called a rock call, 4-man slide to the right, and the tackle is going to be manned up with the end, and then everybody slides here. He's really manned up here. Slide, slide, and slide. But it's a four-man slide. These guys are sliding to their right. Now, okay, who it really messes up is this guard. Because if he makes a rock call, I'm in a four-man slide, but I know I can't let this guy cross my face because I'm the last man in the slide. If you're the last man in the slide, you can only let one, or I'm sorry, you can't let anybody cross your face. A lot of times the centers are the last man in the slide, and they can't let anybody cross their face in a three-man slide. In a four-man slide, the guard cannot let anybody cross their face. So what gets really confusing for this guard, and it's crazy that I'm talking about it like this because I don't want to confuse you guys but this is how high level it could get. What gets really confusing for this guard is that he's designed to go ahead and slide down here. But when they actually shift, who's his responsibility now? He actually does a great job in getting he just said, all right, let me just back up. Let me just back up, right? Because I don't know what's going on. Let me just back up. Something's happening. Let me just back up. Right? So, if you were to stick with your rule, you would just be manned up on this guy. If it was six-man protection. But since it's five-man protection, that means this tackle has to be dialed in. And to know I have to be alert for internal pressure. Because at the end of the day, five-man pressures, we have to get the most dangerous bodies and leave one for the quarterback to throw on. So, in essence, this call would turn into a five-man slide anyway if you still made the Ray call, three-man slide to the right, or the rock call. They have to set and get depth anyway because the running back is out of the protection. They can't even pick up six if they wanted to because they only have five to block. So what he has to do is be alert. He should know, this tackle should know that it's a five-man protection call. I got to be alert. Squeeze. I can't write it too much. Squeeze. This tackle has to know that he is alert. Squeeze. So is this guard if they are manned up on a five-man protection, which means they'll get depth and they just get the most dangerous. So in this situation, who's the most dangerous? The one who has a straight line to the quarterback. They will get depth and then squeeze inside. Squeeze, 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 squeeze to protect the quarterback. This guy is going to be the free runner, but at least he has the longest distance to the quarterback compared to everybody else. Everybody else is still good. They're still sliding here, they're still sliding here, and they're still sliding here. It was even confusing for this guard, right? I don't know. He may be a younger guy, but he's in the slide anyway. He got to protect his gap. But he ends up doing what they both squeeze. Both of the guards squeeze, bro. And then the two B gaps are totally ran through. No diddy. So let's go over this again real quick. All right. Pre-snap. This is what it looks like. This is what if we're in the film room, coach, this is what I saw pre-snap. So, which means we're going to probably have a rock call, and that means that it's going to be a four-man slide to the bodies, to these four, right? So usually he would be here, he would be a gap, he would be this gap, and he would be this gap. And that means that this tackle now has to be on alert squeeze because the running back is out on a route. It's only a five-man protection. We only got five guys, so we're going to take the five most dangerous. So that's what the protection would have been pre-snap or 3 seconds before the snap. When it gets to half a second before the snap, this is what it turns to. So if it turns into this, what do you do? Have a hot route ready. Get the ball out because the protection call we first made is not going to work for the change of structure from the defense that just happened. It's not going to work. If the center made this call, and we talked about it after the game, and this is the first call, and this is the first look that they saw when the center made a call, I'd be like, this is the worst call you could have made. But based off of their rules, Georgia knows if we line up in this look, they're going to have a call. But if we shift, we can get it to where that call is going to be wrong. And they time it perfect. So, what happens now? We talked about it. Have a hot route. This running back has to be on a lookie. You got to be on a lookie here or something, right? You got to look now. You should be more aware that you know that you're on a route, right? These guys, right? And you see 5 guys walking up to the line of scrimmage. Look now, because pressure's coming, and you know only 5 guys can block, and 6. If 6 are coming, hey, let's make some. Hey, we got to figure something out. Whatever you guys are doing, have a hot route embedded into this so they can look, and then now you have green grass to go because everybody else is trying to get to the quarterback. So, since this is what happens, technically, what this would have looked like is this 4-man slide. Say he kept the call on and they did a 4-man slide. It'd be here, 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 and here, and then it'll be the same thing. The tackle would go ahead and set back and be on alert duel, which means that he has to know I may have to squeeze if someone comes in the B gap and someone comes in the A and B gaps. Okay, I may have to squeeze so we can get the 5 most dangerous. But the tackle don't know that. His eyes out here. There's no awareness for the shell, the structure, and what's going on to be alert for something, right? Or during the week, they may have prepared for a different blitz. This is why the game is so crazy. It's like the game, there's so much mental to this game that you have to, like, it's way more than people truly know, the mental part of this game. And it's crazy. It all happens within 6 seconds each play at most, right? So this tackle, regardless, should be setting and squeezing because it's a 5-man protection. They got to block the five most dangerous. Now, the ones who actually mess up is the tackle, but also both of the guards. You know that this guard, it's so hard for these guards to know because it just breaks their rules. It shoots the rule right down like it totally distorts every rule that we know when this happens. There's no rules. Like the rules are now haywire because of what we are taught in the film room, and it's taught across America. So this is just beautiful chess match by Georgia. And if I were to go back and say to my guys, say I'm watching film, say we're the next team that Georgia plays here, and we look at this and we be like, oh shit, what are we gonna do here, coach? I'd be like, hey, make sure we assess the safeties before the play. That'd be my first thing to say. I say always and forever we will assess the safeties before the play. All right, so we know the safety to the field is in the middle of the field. That's clue for us that it's cover 1. If they're in cover 1, they're most likely going to be man, and this is more a man pressure or man blitz look. Potential for that. I'm already alert. The second thing I'm alert for is the other safety, obviously. And the other safety is down and 10 yards away from the line of scrimmage. Cover 2, cover 3. That's not normal. And then therefore, they have to be if he's coming down so far, he's probably making sure that he's going to replace somebody else's responsibility since it's a blitz. Okay? So, since the safeties are down, I'm already alert. Something's up. And this is also being alert for the quarterback to slow it down. If the play clock is in your favor, slow it down a little bit, right? But it's so crazy because, like, this is probably played like 60 in the game. Georgia knows the cadence just as good as Texas does at this point. and they just timed it up beautifully, bro. This is literally, as the video says, poetry in motion. And so, what call would I make if I was a coach? Let me go back to that. What call would I make if I was a coach here? I'd say, all right, we're going to assess the safeties, making sure that we're good there. We know that something's up. That way, we kind of slow down a little bit and know that something's coming, and but just be on high alert. As soon as I see that everybody walks up to the line of scrimmage, I'm automatically going full slide away from the strength. So we should all full slide here. Slide, 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 slide. And people would say, yeah, that's the obvious call. But it, when you get really in the weeds of it, there's reasons why it's not as easy as it looks. But that's why you have to be in these rooms to kind of familiarize yourself with, all right, why are our rules this way? Okay, if these are the cases, how can we make sure that we can protect anything that we can to our best ability? Just making sure that we're in the right spots, our eyes are in the right places, and we're communicating as effective as possible here. So again, if I was a coach and I was looking at this, I would be like, if you see anything like this, if they have any move call, an alert call, and we're gonna full slide away from the strength, especially if it's a 5-man protection, just to make life easier. We're just going to make sure that we slide weak and allow the quarterback to control this free runner and hopefully get it off with a hot route, with a lookie, or anything. So that's what I would say to my guys. Like, we would embed that before we would get to the practice field Monday or Tuesday, or like, Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, one of those days as we're watching film. Full slide. If this was an in-game scenario, I'd be like, guard, you know that nobody can cross your face. From what the calls said, this knows who you were supposed to have, has now crossed your face. You got to stay with him. But also, since it's 5-man protection, you got to make sure that you're alert squeeze, because our running back is not going to help us in the protection. So therefore, it will work out as a full man slide anyway. And I know for sure, if you are unaware of any of this right now, like if you're not in these offensive line rooms, this may have sounded the most confusing to you in the world. And I could say that it was my communication, which, but I don't believe so, because you just haven't heard of these words before, these terms before. And if you had heard of these terms before, there would have been a certain sense of familiarity. Like, you would have had context. You would have been able to bridge things together in order to understand what we're talking about. So if you don't know what we're talking about here, these are a lot of general things that are in offensive line rooms across the country, especially if you go to the second level or another level, which are D1, D2, D3, besides high school. And even if you're in D3, D3, D2, D1, going to the NFL, there are certain rules that offensive line coaches go by that are pretty generalized throughout the organization, right? For offensive line terminology, just how wide receivers know the route tree between 1 and 9, offensive lines have the same idea, have the same terminologies that kind of brand and branch across all teams in America. And that's so that, think about it. If a guy gets traded in the NFL, you don't want to have to come up with hundreds of different terms so that he knows that we're all on the same page. It has to be generalized so that when you acquire a new guy, it's not a big learning curve, especially if it's like game 4 or 5 in the season, right? That's why it's amazing to me, a lot of these quarterbacks that go to these different teams, that they ball out within the first 2 games or something like that. It's a few elements that could go into it, but at the same point in time, it's because the terminology is generalized across all teams and organizations. What I want to do is to make sure is you have as much context of these rules, of these terms, as possible. If you go ahead and join the offensive line room, that's where all these terms are embedded and placed, and they're from the top coaches that have literally ever coached the sport and the position. They're from Dante Scarnecchia, Bob Wiley, Dwayne Ledford, Pat Flaherty, Super Bowl champion winning coaches, been around the game for a while. And I mashed up all the information that they gave me and put them all in the course for you to study, digest, and to get better, right? There's a learning curve when you go to the next level. I want to make sure that curve is short. It's a short learning curve. It's not going to be long, right? And you could do that by just getting onto the offensive line room today. That's only $28 a month. And I'm telling you, you will be very thankful that you did it, because you'll be able to go to your next school, to your next locker room, to your next meeting room, and walk in to know, like, I know football. And then it's funny because a lot of people sometimes they have the best ability in the world, but they really don't know football. And what that does to your ability, it takes it down like like maybe like 6 to 20 points. Right? You could be a 99 overall, but if the IQ is not there, you could easily turn it to a 75. Easily turn into a 75, maybe 70, if you don't have the IQ. And therefore, you be benched and not going to play. So, check out the offensive line room. It put a lot of work into it. It has over 5 hours of detailed information on offensive line play. And it's in the link below. Appreciate you guys. And I'll see you guys on the next episode.